Hello, I am Alphonso McGriff III. This is Alphonso Speaks, and this platform we use to share information about the conscious conversation experience. What I like to do first is drink some water and let you know about the Taste of the Caribbean Arts and Culture Connecticut Inc. presents Hartford, Connecticut's Taste of the Caribbean Jerk Festival this Saturday, August 1st, at the riverfront. You want to try to come on out and have a good time? Some good food, good music, good people, vendors selling, jewelry and clothes and all kind of wonderful things. So again, that's this Saturday coming up. Taste of the Caribbean Arts and Culture Connecticut Inc. presents the Hartford, Connecticut's Taste of the Caribbean Jerk Festival, Saturday, August 1st, down at the riverfront. And as I've been saying for the last few weeks or times I've been on, if you're interested in having a conscious conversation, just let a brother know. We can get together and have a conscious conversation about whatever you choose. It could be one on one, it could be with a group, it could be with some young adults, high school students, or adults. It doesn't matter. We can get together and have a conscious conversation. The only thing I ask for is some water and red grapes. Water and red grapes. And right now, it doesn't matter to me if the grapes have seeds or not. So, water, red grapes, we'll be in good shape. Tonight's going to be a rough night for some people because I'm going to be, some people might call it controversial. But that's why we have conscious conversations, because we put certain things on the table and we speak about it in a civil manner. But I'm going to put some things on the table tonight that that could potentially, how some people say, get you canceled and get your black card revoked, all of that kind of stuff. Because I'm here to talk about so-called racism. But first, I want to help everybody understand what a conscious conversation is. I forgot, I'm also going to talk about Caitlin Clark and her teammate, Sophie Cunningham. So, yes, it's going to be a few things I'm going to chat about tonight. And I would like for people to keep an open mind and try to understand me as opposed to having an emotional reaction to anything that I might say. So, the conscious conversation experience is a collaboration and movement that chooses love and enlightenment. Resolution is when the successful solving of a problem. That's what we call resolution, and we're always seeking resolution. I am here to help myself and people around the world transform conflict into conscious conversation that leads to understanding, resolution, and enlightenment. What is a conscious conversation? A conscious conversation is a verbal interaction where we speak with the desire to understand. We ask questions and we share information. We take responsibility for our thoughts, words, and actions and control our prejudices and emotions, which, if left unchecked, will disrupt the goal of having a conscious conversation. The strength of a conscious conversation is its ability to inspire rather than manipulate. Ultimately, the conscious conversation experience is a pathway to understanding, resolution, and enlightenment. One thing I've learned is that developing myself can lead to unnecessary challenges with insecure people who are intimidated by those who have a sense of self or those who are trying to grow and evolve and become better. It's not our problem, but it is one of the consequences or challenges associated with personal growth. It's always, for me, I always say, as we enter the door of next levels of understanding, there are fewer and fewer people in the room, which means that sometimes as we continue growing and evolving, we have to leave some people behind, and that's just a part of the process. We all don't grow and evolve at the same rate. We all don't develop understandings at the same rate. So for that reason, sometimes if we have a desire to continue to move on and continue to grow and continue to get to next levels of understanding, we have to leave some people behind, and that's just the fact of life. So now, the thought that I am willing to have a conscious conversation about tonight is what I said earlier, which is there is no such thing as racism. I've been saying this for years, and I'll say it again tonight. There is no such thing as racism. And I'll say for Black people, racism, the idea of racism, the concept of racism is a big distraction. We are a universal people. We just learned this race-based thinking a few hundred years ago. Before that, we were operating based on universal laws, principles, and understandings, which is the truth. Universal laws are the truth. And that's what we move based on. You know, of course, we had our faults and flaws, but the foundation that we moved from was universal laws, principles, and understandings. When we stay distracted by this race stuff, we guarantee that we will never give ourselves an opportunity to reach our true potential, to evolve and grow to the potential we have the opportunity to, because it's a distraction. That's all it is. Now, the reason why there's no such thing as racism, according to me, this is not necessarily the truth, but this is according to me. If someone came to you and said, hey, we're having a meeting tonight, and we're having a meeting about birdism, and we want to stop birdism, and you would say birdism, well, what's birdism? And I say, well, these birds, they keep using their wings to fly. You would look at me kind of crazy, like that's the nature of birds. How are you going to stop birdism? Birds use their wings to fly. Well, I feel the same exact thing about racism. Birds using their wings to fly is the nature of the behavior of birds. If you came to me about a meeting about stopping racism, I would say, well, why? And you would say something about race and racial injustice and all of those kind of things. And I would say, well, those people who participate in that behavior, that's their nature. It's the nature of their behavior. Anybody who participates in what you identify as racism is operating based on their nature. So you can't change the nature of anything. Whatever the nature of that is what it's going to be about and what it is. So this idea of fighting against racism and stopping racism and ending racism, I would like to challenge any Black person to tell me when racism didn't exist, when we were living among and operating with so-called white people. When did racism not exist? And what is the motivation for thinking racism can be stopped when in my entire life, what people identified as racism has always been here? It doesn't matter how many acts that you go through, legislation. It doesn't matter how many laws that have been created. It doesn't matter how many rules or regulations or anything. It doesn't matter what man has done to so-called end racism. Racism, as it is described and explained, is alive and well. Now, when I think in terms of racism, the racism I'm talking about, if I'm talking about racism, I'm talking about the idea that a group of people will use every resource available to them to stunt the growth of another group of people in every way possible, simply because of the color of their skin. They will create rules. They will create laws. Like back in the day, this guy, Billy White Shoes Johnson, used to do this dance and split and have a football celebration. And they outlawed football celebrations, touchdown celebrations. When Kareem Abdul-Jabbar went to college, as soon as he got to college, they outlawed dunking. And so these are the kind of things people would identify as racism. I identify it as the nature of the behavior of a people who participate in this type of behavior. Now, the reason why it's so important to see the difference between so-called racism and the nature of the behavior of something, if you know it's the nature of the behavior of whatever it is, then you don't go into denial about the behavior. If you know it's the nature of the behavior for birds to use their wings to fly, then it makes no sense to be in denial about the fact that birds use their wings to fly, because it's their nature. So when you accept the behavior of so-called racism as the nature of the behavior of those who participate in that, then you won't waste, or for me, I won't waste my life or my time trying to change the nature of the behavior of anything. What I can do is accept that that's the nature of their behavior. And then when I move with the understanding that that is the nature of their behavior. And I have to make plans and go about life not in denial and expecting them to move differently, but accepting the reality of the fact that it's just simply the nature of their behavior. And when I encounter it, I'm not shocked and amazed. I'm not running in the streets, marching and protesting and candlelighting and praying and all of this stuff. I'm not doing any of that, because I'm not in denial about the nature of the behavior of a group of people that participate in what is identified as racism. And what I see today is this: we're in the most incredible denial. Denial will keep you miserable at all times. The last week when I was on, last Thursday, and I was talking about how miserable that refusing to accept reality, you end up hurting yourself. I realized that I was hurting myself by refusing to accept the reality that the behavior of a so-called racist is their nature. And there's nothing I can do about that. That's why it still exists now. And it's not going to change. It's going to be here as 100 years from now. It's not going to change. You cannot change the nature of the behavior of anything by running out in the street protesting or thinking you can write something on paper and that's going to change it. It's much better to deal with the reality of the behavior, so that way you can plan for how to deal with the behavior when we encounter the behavior. Denial will keep us in our lives miserable. And that's why so many of us are miserable today. What's up, Derek? Derek McGriff in the house. Atlas Lovell is in the house. See, now, Atlas said, have you considered systematic racism, which is involved institutional injustice and social conditioning? See, those are a lot of really good words. Those are words that keep us distracted with racism. Have you considered systematic race? What is systematic racism? Systematic racism is racist people putting their power and their position and whatever resources they have to use in the system to get the benefits or the results that they want, which is to keep a certain group of people down simply because of the color of their skin. Now, and then you talk about institutional injustice. Institutional injustice is the same thing. It's just a group of people who are identified as racist, including how they feel into how the system is set up so that they can have things the way they want to by distracting and keeping a certain group of people back simply because of the color of their skin. We have all of these really important these words and all of this stuff. What do you call it? Um, the nature of our oppression. Um, there's no, to me, there's no nature of our oppression. Now, if there's a nature of our oppression, then that nature of our oppression is located in our consciousness, because that means we've accepted this idea of oppression. There's no nature of our oppression until we implant that in our consciousness and believe it. So, and when we use the term the nature of our oppression, I understand that that is an attempt to identify somebody who is oppressing us. Well, I'll say again, the most oppressing we can be is through our own consciousness. The most oppressed we can be is through our own consciousness. So we have to understand that there is no such thing as racism. And those who participate in what we identify as racist behavior, their behavior is their nature and it's not going to change. So now what? Do you keep complaining about racism? What, do you keep running out in the streets screaming and mad about racism? Do you hold meetings to stop birds from using their wings? Do you hold meetings to keep frogs from jumping? The nature of the behavior of a people is not racism, it's the nature of their behavior. Now, Brother Atlas, you said statistics are facts. What statistics are you talking about? What statistics are you talking about? And again, I can only share it based on what makes sense to me. There's no statistic that can make birds using their wings to fly birdism that needs to be stopped. There's no statistic that can say frogism needs to stop because it's the nature of frogs. Now, Atlas, you moving the goalposts. Now you're talking about black men in prison. You're talking about single parent households, income disparities. You're using a lot of stuff and words that if we believe in, we'll oppress ourselves. So, for instance, when you say black men in prison, I personally believe most of us that are in prison because we made bad decisions, not because somebody was racist against us. Maybe the so-called racists use their position of power to maybe give us more years or more punishment because of their nature. But we put ourselves in the position to be under their yoke in order to do that with the decisions we made. It's like If somebody wanted to infiltrate where I live with guns and cocaine, right? And they left these guns in the front yard where I live, and they left cocaine. They left 10 pounds of cocaine in the yard where I live. There is nothing somebody can do to make me choose guns and cocaine. Now, I understand that we're all different, and I also make bad decisions too. But we have to focus more on our decision making than we focus on what the man trying to do to oppress us. That's how I see it. Our decision making has to improve. But we're so focused on all of these income disparities. Listen, if you remember the Monopoly game, those people that control this country were playing Monopoly for 150 years. And then they said, okay, you can play. And they owned all of the houses, the hotels, the land, the railroads. They owned the prison. They controlled the banks. They had control of everything, and they let us play. So everywhere we landed, we were catching hell. Um, Income disparity has been in place since the country was set up. When we didn't get to participate in the historical origin of the natural resources and the full setup. We didn't even participate in creating the Constitution of the United States of America. That was created by somebody else. So the idea of income disparities, that's been in place since the historical origin of this country. But again, all of these fancy terms and names and whatever that is, it doesn't change the fact that we can make better decisions and put ourselves in better positions. And we are so incredibly brilliant that there's not much they can do to stop us from taking full advantage of how this whole thing is set up. The universal approach to life is such that we have to understand the reality we're in. It's no different than being in the forest. We can be in the forest and it's lions and tigers and bears. They're not being racist. They're being what they are. They're operating based on the nature of their behavior. And those lions and tigers and bears and snakes and poisonous plants that we might eat and all of the other dangers associated with that forest represent the nature of that forest. And of course, anywhere we live, any environment we live in, it's going to have challenges associated with it as well. And we have the wherewithal and the sense and the brilliance to overcome the challenges once we decide what we want and then make the setup serve our best interests. If we're in the forest, we look around, we learn as much as we can about the forest, we decide what we want from the forest, and then we figure out how to make the forest serve our best interests. That's a universal approach to life. That is the foundation of what people identify as freedom. We can be in prison and we can look around and understand how the prison works. And based on how it works, decide what we want while we're there. And then figure out how to make the prison serve our best interests. It might sound crazy, but it's an approach that is it's a universal approach to life. That's just the way it is. You can be dropped out of a helicopter in China and not know anybody and not know how to speak the language. But the universal approach to life is such that you look around, you start developing an understanding of where you are, you start figuring out what you want and what you need, And then you start making that system serve you based on what you've decided as it relates to what you want and what you need. So I'm not one who looks at America and says, oh, racial disparity, oh, single parent household, oh, black men in prison, oh, racism is keeping us down. No, no. I know better than that. I know we have the ability to make this setup serve our best interests. But one of the first things we have to do is begin making better decisions. We have to make better decisions. So when it comes to this racism business, I say there's no such thing as racism. There's only the nature of the behavior of a certain group of people who participate in what is identified as racism. And when we see it as the nature of their behavior, we don't run around here trying to change it. We run around here trying to make better decisions for ourselves. We run around here trying to understand the society and how it's set up, decide what we want from it, and then figure out how to make it serve us. We have the mindset, we have the brilliance, we have the ability to make wherever we are serve our best interest. So, in spite of the lions and tigers and bears and snakes, and then those you identify as racist, we need to stop wasting our time and energy being caught up in this race based foolishness. It's not going to change unless one of us disappear. Because the further back you go in history, you find that before they ran into us, they were treating each other the same way and splitting each other up and deciding who was going to be the higher class versus the lower class operating in the class system before they started dealing with us. So that's their nature, is to try to establish themselves as those who are going to be on top. And we have been chosen by them to be the ones they need to keep on the bottom. And that's only because of insecurity. Like I said earlier, when we ever start discovering a sense of self and understanding who we are, everybody's in a panic because of what we are capable of and what we have been capable of. There are those of us who have left things on this planet that the world is still learning from and trying to figure out and trying to understand. So if you can imagine, in America, there's 345 million people, and we represent 13% of that 345 million. Even just 13% of us, if we began tapping into our true potential, this whole thing would be different. We already affect the entire world in the world of entertainment. Everything we do, whether it's art, music, whatever we do, it affects the entire world. Right to this day, the whole world has not been able to let go of hip hop. The whole world has been affected by breakdancing, something that just came right up out of the East Coast of New York. Hip hop, the same thing. The whole world, everything we do. Back when Barry Gordy was doing his thing, Motown, when they went to Europe, all of the groups that came from Europe after that were influenced by Motown. When James Brown went to Europe, we have everything we do, it touches the whole world. Now, think of any of these other countries. Think of Portugal. How many Portuguese records you heard in America? How many Chinese records you heard are popular in America? How many dances over in Switzerland that they do have transcended the entire world? What I'm saying is, we do it without thought when it comes to entertainment, and we affect the entire world. When we ever, and we only represent 13% of this country. And a small percentage of that participate in the entertainment world. And when we do what we do in Switzerland and Portugal and Bangladesh and Pakistan, where we affect everybody. They got rappers in Pakistan. They got rappers in Switzerland. They got rappers in Bangladesh, Portugal. They got rappers in Ireland. They got breakdancers in all of those places. Everything we do in the entertainment world, we affect the entire world. Now, the interesting thing is it's an entertainment only because we make people billions and trillions of dollars. But we have the brilliance and the ability to do the same thing in any area we touch. And we have to stop being distracted by this race-based stuff. It's just a distraction. And it keeps us from ever tapping into our true potential. Now, I want to talk about this Caitlin Clark thing. And I'm going to go back to denial. There's the most incredible denial in the WNBA. It's such a concentrated sense of denial in the WNBA right now. Caitlin Clark. First of all, Caitlin Clark can ball. She's not just a white girl being promoted because she's a white girl. Caitlin Clark can ball. That's number one. Number two, Caitlin Clark was balling in college. Her last 2 years, she was creating an entire worldwide following while she was in college. Number three, when she came over to the NBA, she brought that following with her and then woke up a lot of other people to have an interest in the WNBA. Number 4 or 5 or whatever. Caitlin Clark is straight. She's not a member of the LGBTQ. So now you have this Caitlin Clark who can ball her brains out. She's a white girl and she's straight and she's in the WNBA putting in that work. Of 345 million people in America, 56% of those people are white. Now you got a white girl balling out. I mean, just think about it. Whenever there's a black person that rises up in golf like Tiger Woods or a black person that raises up in the world of tennis, the viewership of black people increases significantly. So how is everybody shocked and amazed when Caitlin Clark, who is a white girl who can ball, who is straight, goes into WNBA and continues balling out? And the white crowd follows her. Because she built, like I said, she built a following and started in college. She had 2 years of building a following. That following came into the WNBA with her. And then when they saw her being the exception in a mostly black, female, gay-dominated basketball league, to me, that's no different than Tiger Woods dominating the golf course or Serena Williams dominating tennis. How can you be in such denial to hate the fact that this is happening with this girl? It's natural for it to happen. 56% of the people in America are white, and she's a white girl, and she's straight. She's not gay, and she could ball too. How do you hate that? That just doesn't make sense to me unless you're just in an extreme denial. Uh, all of these sisters put in all of this work to develop that league, yes, and not one of them brought the kind of crowd Caitlin Clark did. Not one. And they were all nice and they great ballers and all of that stuff. But none of them brought the kind of crowd Caitlin Clark. Even the rookie, that sister, that's I can't think of her name, but I think she's gonna be rookie of the year. She'd be balling out. She is super duper nice. I think she came from Iowa, but that young lady can ball. And it's okay that she can ball, but she's never gonna get the kind of results that Caitlin Clark is gonna get in America because she's not a white girl who is straight and can ball. That's the anomaly in the league. And white people who like the WNBA, but they don't they not necessarily comfortable watching um, gay women play basketball, gay black women, and it's in that case, how do you not understand why she's the biggest thing in the history of the WNBA? It makes no sense to be upset about it. It's just a reality. This is America. 50% of people of 345 million are white. And then 20% are what they call Hispanic or Latino. And a lot of them see themselves as white. Only 13% are black. So no, even though the so-called black women have held the WNBA down for how long and got these great careers and all of that, none of them are white girls who can ball out, who are straight, and who grabs that 56% to come and pay attention to the WNBA. Stop being in denial. It's a reality based on America. It's not I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad that because I don't say it's bad when a high percentage of black people voted for Obama. Obama ran for office as he ran as a black man. And I'm not sure how many black people I know that didn't vote for him outside of me, but yes, a high percentage of black people voted for Obama. A high percentage of black people supported Tiger Woods. A high percentage of black people supported um, the sisters in tennis. So how are we shocked and amazed when a high percentage, and they're at 56%, high percentage of white folks support Caitlin Clark? Come on, man. How's she just gonna jump in the league? She jumped in the league and had people flying move people from flying regular seating to flying in private jets in 1-2 years. She moved contract negotiations from a few hundred thousands up into the millions. She did that with those who came into the league, supporting the league because of her existence. And it's only natural for a large percentage of white folks to support Caitlin Clark. No different than, like I said earlier, a large percentage of white folks supporting the Williams sisters, supporting Tiger Woods, supporting whoever, supporting Obama. And you can't tell me black folks didn't think black folks put Obama in office, even though we only represent 13% of the population. But a high percentage, if you talk about out of that 13%, what percentage voted for Obama, is I bet you is up in the 90s. So how can we be tripping when a high percentage of white folks support Caitlin Clark? It's just real. You can't talk about what the other women did who pioneered the league. So what? You didn't bring in the money or the crowd. That's just real. That's how the business works. Even with her friend, Sophie Cunningham. Sophie Cunningham, how she get a sneaker deal, and her look at her statistics and this, that, and the other. No, Sophie Cunningham, she got a sneaker deal because she openly defended Caitlin Clark in front of that high percentage of white folks. And somebody in marketing said, these people will support Sophie too. It's about money. It's about business. She doesn't even have no statistics. She didn't even make this team. It's about money. So Caitlin Clark's crowd supported Sophie for defending Caitlin. Now she has her own basketball shoes because it's about money. All of this other stuff people are talking about doesn't matter. We're talking about business. You can't be in denial. We can't live in denial. That's a guaranteed way to have a miserable life. And then this one-sided denial is really funny. It's like, I said it again, I'm going to say it again, and I done said it already. We act like we forgot that 90% of us was supporting Tiger Woods. And 90% of us was supporting Obama. And 90% of us was supporting Serena and Venus. And now when a high percentage of white folks support Caitlin, and the results show, and when she shows up in the stadium and on a huge level, and the people who buy tickets and pay that money, why are we mad? Why are we shocked and amazed? We were just operating at 13%. Caitlin got 56% of the country, white folks, who, and a high percentage at 56% is supporting her. And they supporting Sophie Cunningham. So the people who are in business understand Sophie might not have the statistics. She might not be an all-star. She might not even be an Olympian. But Caitlin's 56% are supporting Sophie, and that means money. So Sophie got her own shoe. And it's a whole lot of sisters with higher average, better statistics, longevity in the league, all that stuff, who didn't get offered their own shoe. Know why? Because you don't have a high percentage of 56% of the people in the country supporting you. And we're just talking about in America. We didn't even talk about the people supporting Caitlin Clark throughout all over the world. We didn't talk about the people who support Sophie Cunningham because she supported Caitlin Clark and all over the world. We didn't even talk about all over the world. We're just talking about America. So I think that, number one, if we focused on ourselves, we'd be a lot better off. Number two, if we abandon this race-based thinking and got out of the race-based paradigm and the race-based distraction. Right now, they are at an all-time high trying to keep us preoccupied with race. And it's foolishness. It's pure foolishness. It's pure foolishness. Just because those people who operate based on race and they're operating based on their nature doesn't mean we have to choose to operate the same way. We can make better decisions. Stop being in denial. When I was talking about the one love experience, I talked about what love is. Love is first a full acceptance of self. Love is full acceptance of the entirety of reality and everything that's in it. Acceptance doesn't mean you agree with it or you like it, but acceptance puts you in the position to be able to come up with a plan on how to deal with it, rather than staying in denial and being miserable. So when I talked about the one love experience, I talked about full acceptance of self, full acceptance of reality and everything in it, including the people. And then the 5 essential questions. Do I like myself? Do I love myself? Do I respect myself? Do I take full responsibility for myself? And do I know myself? That's where the love is located, in those 7 places together. That's where the love is located. And when we're involved in love that I'm talking about, with full acceptance and those 5 essential questions, that's the kind of love that keep us from hurting ourselves, keeping us from making emotional decisions, um, and keeping us from not thinking. We have to make better decisions. That's where it all starts. And it sounds easy, but it's not. Because of the way it is in this society and this setup, we have to be conscious of every moment, or 10 minutes to slide by and we done messed up and grabbed them chocolate chip cookies. It can happen that fast. Can have all the greatest intentions in the world, and the next thing you know, you got a big bag of potato chips in your hand. So I'm saying we have a lot of work that we can do on ourselves rather than running around here trying to change what can't be changed. Understand what's happening with Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Don't have an emotional reaction to it because you might not like it. Or these people on the television convince us because they want us to be caught up in the race-based paradigm, and they keep making it a race issue. And then so now it's a white girl. Now she, look, but with all the sisters, the one question I have is, which one of the sisters in the league brought millions and millions of viewers to the WNBA? Which one? Which one? All I need is one name. Which one brought millions and millions of viewers to the WNBA? It's a business. And people are going to function as a business. This setup is a business. Sophie Cunningham has her own shoe because this is a business. Because she's a tall, blonde, decent looking girl out here, and she could play a basketball game and then that night go to a boxing match and be the ring girl because she's white and her looks, and they're at 56% of the population. Nobody care about her statistics. She has selling potential, marketing potential. Caitlin Clark, selling potential, marketing potential. sisters in the league that don't have their own shoes because they not bringing millions and millions of people to watch the WNBA. And that's real. It's nothing to be mad about. It's just a real reality associated with this setup. And like I said, we have done the same thing. When when one of us was involved and like I said, in these sports or that presidency, we came out in the highest possible numbers to support. And they're doing the same thing for Caitlin and Sophie. Don't get caught up in the foolishness. It's about business. Don't be in denial. Denial hurts. Denial is what hurts. Love doesn't hurt. Love is all good all the time because we're always making the best decisions for ourselves. And those two understandings about full acceptance and the 5 essential questions, and that is in all of that is in my book. The Roots of Retreat, the Genesis of a Conscious Conversation. It's in the book. Get out of the race-based paradigm. Don't get distracted and caught up in that. It's a waste of life and it's a waste of time. And when you're caught up in race, you also confirm you're in denial. And when we live in denial, we guarantee misery, period. That's all I can say about that. So no, there's no such thing as racism. There's only the nature of the behavior of a certain group of people. And it's not going to change. And don't be in denial. Understand when you see business taking place versus when you see some stuff you taking personal and taking the wrong way. This is about business. And when one of them sisters bring millions and millions of people into the league, then she'll get the same treatment because it's about business. Don't think she won't because she's black. She will because it's about business. So, in what way do I make decisions that hurt me? That's the question I ask every time I come on. And the question I have is, do I allow fear, shame, blame, and guilt to manipulate and control me? Well, this is simple. This is according to me. This is not necessarily the truth, but this is according to me. And I must make this, as Rick James said, publicly clear. Publicly clear. Any person or group of people who use fear, shame, blame, and guilt to get you to do something is only trying to manipulate you, not help you understand. Anytime somebody comes at me with fear, shame, blame, or guilt, I know that they don't give a damn about me. They're only trying to get me to do what they want me to do. Because if you did, you would try to help me understand. You wouldn't be trying to manipulate me with fear, shame, blame, and guilt. So that's what I have to say about that. Anyone who comes at me with fear, shame, blame, or guilt to try to get me to do something is not trying to help me. They're just trying to manipulate me. And if they were trying to help me, they would be trying to help me understand why I should move a certain way. Period. You could be doing anything right now in this very moment, and you chose to give me some time in your life. I do not take it for granted. I love you all, and I always will. and I will never give up on our people, ever. We have to make good decisions, and we have to stay out of denial. Let me just say this before I get off the air. Racism is not going to end. That's denial. If you believe for any reason that what you identify as racism is going to end, then that's like saying birds using their wings to fly is going to end one day. One day these birds are going to stop using their wings to fly. One day it's going to end. They're going to stop using their wings to fly. It's not going to end. So why put valuable time in your life in trying to stop birds from using their wings to fly? It just doesn't make any sense. That's called the ultimate denial. The ultimate denial. Again, I thank y'all for tuning in. I'm Alphonso McGriff III. This is Alphonso Speaks. And the platform is for the Conscious Conversation experience. And also, just don't forget the Taste of the Caribbean Arts and Culture Connecticut Inc. presents the Hartford, Connecticut's Taste of the Caribbean Jerk Festival this Saturday, August 1st. This Saturday, August 1st, down there at the riverfront. Y'all have a good night, and I hope I didn't make anybody upset, but I just think we have to stop wasting our time with trying to end racism. It doesn't exist. It's not racism. It's the nature of the behavior of a certain group of people. And it's been here all my life, and it was here long before I existed, and it's not going anywhere because it's the nature of the behavior. The nature of the behavior of anything doesn't change because somebody says it should stop. Y'all have a good night. Peace. I'm out.